Square Enix is completely changing its corporate philosophy and appears to be ditching woke ideology, as well as it will be revamping its human resources allocation. Specifically, the company plans to focus on fun and creating unforgettable experiences. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Before we get into this story, I do want to remind you that Square Enix has been suffering significant financial losses as of late. Back at the end of April, they announced that they were expecting more than $140 million loss as it abandoned numerous projects in development. We don't know what exactly those projects were, but we did have this press release here that said Square Enix Holdings expects to recognize extraordinary losses pertaining to abandonment losses associated with its content production account on its books for the fiscal year ended March 2024, as detailed below. It then provided more details on the losses, saying, in light of the myriad changes underway in the environment surrounding its group, to revise the group's approach to the development of high-definition games with the intention of being more selective and focused in the allocation of development resources. As a result of a close examination of the group's development pipeline undertaken in keeping with this revised approach, the company expects to recognize approximately 22.1 billion Japanese yen, that's Japanese yen, 22.1 billion in content abandonment losses on its books for the fiscal year ended March 2024. 22.1 billion Japanese yen is approximately 140.2 million. So that was back at the end of April. Now in May, we actually have those that quarterly report, that yearly report, that they actually had a decline of 70% in profits after it previously embraced wokeness with games like Forspoken. And now they are shifting to unforgettable experiences. So just if you don't know what happened with Square Enix, they did actually post a net sales increase from 343.2 billion yen, or around $2.2 billion, to 356.3 billion yen, or around $2.3 billion in its results briefing session for the fiscal year ended March 31, 2024. However, despite the increase in net sales, the company's profitability shrunk from 49.2 billion Japanese yen to 14.9 billion yen. That's a decline from around 315 million to 95.2 million. It's a drop of approximately 69.7%, almost 70% decline right there. So kind of just shows you that things are not looking well for Square Enix. Obviously, one of the big problems that they had was this Forspoken title. And in their new medium-term business plan document, they actually admitted that they struggled with a number of their titles, specifically AAA titles. They said here that the company revealed that it had a, quote, incomplete journey to better profitability in HD game development. Specifically, the company claimed it, quote, launched many titles, but some failed to live up to profit expectations, especially outsourced titles and some AAA titles. We know one of those major titles was Forspoken, which woke consultant Black Girl Gamers worked on. Square Enix president and representative director Yusuke Matsuda previously admitted the game sales were not good during the company's financial results briefing in February 2023. He said reviews of Forspoken, which we released on January 24, 2023, have been challenging. However, the game has also received positive feedback on its action features, including its parkour and combat capabilities. So it has yielded results that will lead to improvement of our development capabilities of other games in the future. As far as the sales, he said, that said, its sales have been lackluster. And while the performance of new titles with February and March release dates will be the ultimate determinant, we see considerable downside risk to our fiscal year 2023 third quarter earnings. So clearly that game was an absolute disaster for Square Enix. So on top of failing to meet profit expectations on games like Forspoken, Square Enix also detailed it suffered a slowdown in SD games and was, quote, unable to launch hit titles to offset market maturation and aging of legacy titles. Furthermore, Square Enix detailed it had, quote, insufficient portfolio management on a franchise-by-franchise basis, and the company cannibalized new titles due to launch schedules overlap. Finally, the company detailed it had gaps in its management infrastructure. I can definitely point to that launch schedule. I feel like they were launching things really on top of each other and things that would, like, you probably would be competing with each other, especially like strategy style games that were kind of right on top of each other. And it's like, well, maybe you should have delayed that one for the next year. So people will be wanting another strategy game after they've completed the one you just released, instead of releasing a strategy game maybe within the 3 months after another one. That definitely was, I feel like, a major problem that Square Enix had. But obviously, embracing wokeness in games like Forspoken, and admitting that is definitely something that they're showing was, we messed up. That was a failure. So after assessing these failures, the company announced its new corporate philosophy structure. It says that they want to enrich people's own life with our help of creating precious, unforgettable experiences. The power of content is that of moving people's heart. The experience that people are impressed is etched in my mind as unforgettable experiences over time. Unforgettable experiences will be part of people's sense of value over time, leading to moral support. Unforgettable experiences enrich people's own life. We would like to help create precious, unforgettable experiences by delivering content filled with ensured fun. On top of this new philosophy, Square Enix also detailed that it will shift from quantity to quality, delivering ensured fun. So in order to do this, you can see it right here. This is their slide right here on their new medium business term plan. But in order to do this, Square Enix detailed it will strive to create the optimal portfolio, striking a balance between a product out approach that gives creators' imaginations free reign as they develop content, and a market in approach that references customers' voices and data to inform our development. And I think this idea from quantity to quality, I think, goes on to the fact that they were cannibalizing their own kind of release schedules. We're seeing this kind of across the board, I think, with movies and television shows as well. There was just a glut of movies being released and no one was really watching them. And I don't know if that determines whether or not the quality was terrible. I think you can still create a bunch of things and still have high quality. Obviously, the quality declined, but I think that has more to do with the fact that a lot of the people making the stuff now have bought into an ideology that is kind of anti-human. This woke ideology that a lot of these people buy into. It's all about destruction. It's all about death. It's all about the promotion of evil rather than human flourishing, goodness, richness, moral justice, things like that. And when you're embracing things that are just destructive and evil, you really can't create anything of high quality. It's not going to turn out very well. And you can see that kind of especially with Disney and what they've done, Marvel Studios, Star Wars, and even in their animation stuff. People have tuned it out. It just doesn't play well. People aren't interested in that. But they were creating a lot of that, and their quality obviously suffered. But I think it was more to do with woke ideology than anything regarding massive amounts of movie creation. So back to Square Enix, though. The company added that it will engage honestly with our customers and strive for a regular launch cadence, focusing our development efforts and investment on titles with strong potential to be loved for years. Finally, the company added it will, quote, continue to monitor the value of our content production account closely and work to keep it to an appropriate level. So it does indeed look like they have really assessed a lot of the problems that they face and are working to fix them. And I found this slide really interesting here as well, which we're kind of going over. The company also detailed it will now be placing top priority on bringing smiles to our customers' faces. Imagine that, a video game company wanting to actually entertain and bring smiles to their players' faces. Now, I don't think you necessarily need to always be smiling, right? Video games, I think, are supposed to be challenging. I think there can be parts that can be frustrating, but once you are able to overcome, defeat, get better, you do have this kind of like really big, huge high. It's like you actually accomplished something, in the game, and that definitely brings a smile to your face. So that's good that they're actually trying to focus in on that. The fact that they're actually having to say that means that they weren't doing that before, which is kind of telling, right? And then they also right here, it also wants to keep and build on the fan bases for our major franchises by regularly releasing AAA titles and releasing mid-class titles based on strategies for individual lineups, prioritizing profitability. So I found that really interesting there as well. What do we usually see? I think Star Wars has like the best line for this woke ideology. Let the past die, kill it if you have to. They're all about, we got to find this modern audience. We got to find the the new woke audience that's going to buy our game. And what ends up happening, it doesn't exist. It's not there. And instead here, Square Enix is saying, keep and build on the fan bases that they already have. So I think that is a huge, huge change in what we usually see from a lot of these companies. And again, it's interesting that they have to say this here in their new midterm plan, indicates that they probably weren't doing that before. And I think that shows that they had kind of bought into this whole woke ideology idea that you can replace your audience. We just saw it with the Doctor Who stuff. The drag queen, or the person who plays the drag queen in the Maestro character in the most recent episode, said that for every quote unquote transphobe the show lost, 3 wokeists would replace. And that was not the case. The episode had the worst overnight ratings, I think, of a Doctor Who show ever. It was like 2.4, I believe, 2.4 million in the United Kingdom. So these wokeists, they're just an audience that doesn't exist. Yet you constantly see these massive corporations pandering to them. So it's good to see Square Enix saying they want to keep and build on their current fan base that they already have. And I think they have a pretty significant fan base, obviously, consistently putting out Final Fantasy games, putting out Dragon Quest games, putting out all the games that Square Enix is known for. I think one of the failures that they have done is they haven't put out a new tactics game. I think that's a huge misstep for them. They should be focusing on that. And I know, I think one of their executives did talk about that recently, about it's time to do a tactics game. So hopefully they do that, because we haven't seen a tactics game since the Game Boy Advance era. It's been over a decade. I know they've done similar games, Triangle Strategy, etc., but we haven't seen a true tactics game. And I'd love to see it set in Ivalice, or even I really liked the Final Fantasy 13 setting. That could be a fun tactics setting. And as much as I didn't like the actual game itself, I thought the world and setting was really cool. But this one was also interesting. I found this slide super interesting because this actually talks about their human resource allocation policy and how they're going to be revamping it, which means they might be weeding out a lot of woke employees potentially. So it says here that Square Enix will increase opportunities of promotion by selection in order to pursue a new talent and streamline the process of decision making. They will also develop and introduce a recruitment, promotion, and management appointment system. Finally, Square says it will rebuild a training system for new graduates and introduce internal education programs to enhance capabilities of junior and mid-level employees. So obviously that is very generic. It could potentially be indoctrinating employees into woke ideology, but based on kind of all the other slides we're seeing here, that does not seem to be the case. It looks like they're actually indeed trying to prioritize talent, trying to prioritize merit to enhance their company and create the best games possible so that they can bring smiles to their customers' faces and create unforgettable experiences in the games that they create. So I think all of that kind of combined shows that they are kind of moving away from this woke ideology. However, I would be remiss if I didn't point this out. They still do have a diversity, equity, inclusion section on their website. Screenshot of it right here. And it clearly says Square Enix Group believes in the importance of fostering diverse and inclusive workplaces across the many rich facets of the human experience, including nationality, race, religion, thought, and creed, age, gender, sexual orientation, and physical condition. So I 100% disagree with that. I think a lot of that stuff creates a lot of division, creates a lot of problems, actually brings down your company, hurts it. Whereas if you have a singular focus on creating good games, and you're not worried about pandering to a lot of these groups and having your HR deal with them and having these people cause all kinds of problems within the company, demanding you adopt the woke ideology that leads to your profits declining. It's just that stuff doesn't lead to a good outcome. Like I said, the whole woke ideology is anti-human. It's very focused on death and destruction. Almost all of its tenets lead down that path. Obviously, some of them at a sharper decline than others. Obviously, transgender ideology, probably a sharper decline than feminism, but they're both leading to that same kind of destructive endpoint. And kind of embracing that stuff shows that you are going to lead your company to that, and it just doesn't work out. These ideas have been tested, and they have been shown to fail. And I think that is why Square Enix seemingly is adjusting things. We'll see if they actually get rid of this diversity, equity, inclusion stuff. I'm with Grums. I think if video game companies really want to stand out, they will reject this stuff, begin firing people, letting people know that they've fired people, and actively opposing it. I think we're already seeing someone like Thomas Mahler over at Moon Studios, and his game No Rest for the Wicked seems to be one of the few leading the charge, and it looks like he's being rewarded for that. I've seen numerous comments on the videos that I've done covering that, saying that people have gone in and purchased the early access, or they have favored it on their Steam list for when it comes out of early access to wait to play it. So that does seem to be, players seem to be rewarding that type of behavior because they're sick of the stuff that a lot of these corporations have been feeding them. But I do think this is really positive news coming out of Square Enix. It's unfortunate that they had to suffer the consequences that they did. But I guess not unfortunate, but maybe it's unfortunate for them that they had to undergo kind of that, undergo the woke ideology, realize what those consequences are in order for them to say like, hey, this stuff isn't actually getting us anywhere. Maybe they should have just listened to us in the first place and realized it was a no-go from the start, and they wouldn't have to have undergone a lot of the issues here that they are they underwent. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable to each other, but to always speak the truth.